Well, you can be stupid, but still look at stuff.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
And this is...
Monster Movies.
This week's movie is The Host. The Host is a 2006 South Korean action horror sci-fi creature film directed by Bong Joon-ho, starring Song Kang-ho, Bon Hee-mong, Park Hae-yi, Bae Dong-ah, and Go Ah-sung. How about a plot synopsis?
All right, well, after 4 years of growing up in a polluted river, a giant amphibious monster creature terrorizes the Han River, abducting people that it will eat as its dinner, while the father of one of the abducted children goes after her with the help of his family members who treat him like dirt. And we probably said all those names wrong.
I know I said all of them wrong. It's not even probably.
That's okay,
I know I said them wrong.
But it's all right, because it's like, I don't expect...
It's the best I can do. I'm not Korean.
Yeah, I don't expect Korean people to say American names right, but, you know, at least we're trying to give them some respect by trying. I mean, because acting-wise, I had no problem with any of the acting in this movie.
Except for the coroner guy at the beginning, and he's pretty bad. Well, but he's not Korean.
Yeah, I think because this is a Korean film, and I'm not going to say South Korean because obviously we know that North Korea doesn't make movies because it's North Korea. Fuck North Korea. But it's almost like they just picked up. It's like, hey, we're filming this here and we need like white people to play white people. So, hey, it's like, hey, you look white and you look old enough to be a scientist person. Hey, would you like to be in a movie? And for anyone who's not familiar with all these foreign names, the guy who directed this is the same guy who directed the Snowpiercer. Luckily for us, I think this movie's better than Snowpiercer.
I didn't even notice.
Guy who does it, and this one's better than Snowpiercer because I guess like maybe he got to edit this one. It doesn't suffer the same problems as Snowpiercer does. So, spoiler alert, I rate this one higher than Snowpiercer.
I don't remember what you gave. I remember I gave Snowpiercer, I think, 2 stars. I don't remember what you did. I think maybe you gave it 3.
Maybe.
Yeah. That was actually something that I thought that at least made me think about what it would be like. Because, like, we're watching it, and for us, most of it's in Korean. But there are little bits of it that are in English. So, unless you speak both, you're going to have subtitles at some time. It just depends on how much of the time.
Okay, so like the movie starts out and you have the coroner, and I guess he's the coroner, and his assistant, and his assistant is obviously Korean who speaks English, and then you have the white guy who's like the head coroner, and he's like, hey, take this formaldehyde and pour it down the sink. And I'm very adamant about pouring this formaldehyde down the sink, even though it's toxic and there's like regulations, and do it because they're dusty, because I hate dust and I hate stuff that's not clean.
Yeah, what was with the dust? Like, there's a big deal made about the dust.
Yeah, it's...
And not just by him, because after the Korean guy is pouring it down the sink, he stops in the middle of pouring and is like swipes his finger across the dust and looks at it.
I don't know. I guess it's supposed to be like, hey, look, we never use formaldehyde here, or maybe we just have so much of it, we're just going to get rid of all of it.
I think some of it, I think it was used because the white guy makes a big deal about how it's not just formaldehyde, it's dirty formaldehyde. And it's like, so I think it's already used even. But it's so much of it, like, because it's just like maybe 20 or 30 bottles or something when he's telling him to pour it. But then when he's actually pouring it, there's this long tracking shot across the table behind him, and it just goes on forever. That there's so many bottles, like it's so much.
Yep.
Even still, as many bottles as it is, I'm not sure with the size of the river that it is enough concentration to worry about. it's not good, but I don't think that it's like
pouring the formaldehyde. Pouring the formaldehyde into the river is not going to create river monsters. Like there's not enough of it. But yeah, I know what you mean.
That felt like a strange way to get us there, because like I saw the description beforehand and was like, okay, toxic chemicals, pollution creates river creature thing. I thought, okay, well, there's going to be like a factory or something, and they're going to be like have pipes out the side into the river, and they're just going to be dumping stuff. But which would have been a more, or it would have been less forced seeming. It's like, well, how much, like how it's like, it's just so many bottles of formaldehyde. It's not like a big industrial dumping thing. And it's like, and because it's so specific, it makes it more questionable, because if it's just like vague chemical poison pollution, then you're like, well, I don't know, maybe it could create a river monster, but I'm pretty sure formaldehyde isn't going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is like, like having the factory pour chemicals into the river, like that's kind of a trope.
It is.
And so
I
it's
guess,
like,
but...
so them not doing that, I was approving of, but like the whole, like putting so much emphasis on the formaldehyde kind of took away from it. It's like, well, we can find out what formaldehyde does, but having it as something that we don't know about is like better.
Yeah. Like it's more... It's sort of the Snowpiercer problem. Like it's enough explanation that it makes more questions than it solves, when it would have been better to just be more vague about it.
Yep.
But it's totally not a dolphin.
No.
It's
Those
not.
Fucking people are retarded.
Like, I think maybe it's a dolphin. It's like, have you ever seen a dolphin? They don't look like that. They don't have legs. Like, I don't know. I don't think Korean dolphins are different than regular dolphins. I don't think they have legged dolphins.
No. Well, okay. Well, the thing that gets me is like, even before it looks like a dolphin, which it doesn't, you have these two guys
looks
out.
Like a dolphin.
Yeah, well. That is debatable, kind sir. No, you have like these two guys out in the dirty river and they're fishing, and like this guy, he just grabs this cup off of him and then just dips it right into the river, and it's just like, well, now that cup is dirty and I won't ever drink from it ever again.
Yeah. I didn't know he was going for the fish, because we can never see the fish in that scene. I thought he was just going to take a drink, and I was like, well, this is not good. We didn't know formaldehyde's dumped into the river, and he's just going to scoop up a cup of water and take a drink of it. But it's not that, at least.
But he does such a good job catching it with the cup. Like, that's what it's like, was it just kind of just there? And when he talks about it, it's already mutated. So it's strange that the formaldehyde would had any effect on it anyways, because it was already mutated. Because mutation takes a little bit of time for it to even kick in. I mean,
well,
you just
that's already after the time transition, though, isn't it? That's after, that's before.
Because they have like a 4 years later kind of thing, and that's when it's like
that.
Yeah, and it's like the blonde. That's when they show like the blonde guy sleeping on all the food. So yeah, like this is like right after pouring the formaldehyde into the river.
Yeah, so that's way too fast.
Yeah, so it's like it's a little bit. It's like, wow, well, this is a little, if it was like, hey, what's this weird stuff in the water? And it's like, I don't know, but maybe we should get out. It looks gross. Like, I would have been like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, do it like that, and that way we know it's in the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need it.
What if like they saw like stuff floating on the surface of the water or something?
Yeah, like that would have been way better than have a like I don't know. It's like they did it too early. They did it too early. It's like something that's already started to mutate because the formaldehyde that was just added. Like, we understand the river's polluted anyways, just because the river's polluted anyways. But I think they forced it on us too early.
That probably could have been enough. You could have avoided having the weird formaldehyde scene and the trope of the factory with the pipes hanging out over the river. Just say, well, the river, just have somebody comment on that the river is polluted generally, and then you don't have to have any source for it. Just say, well, pollution caused the creature thing. That's believable enough.
Okay, so like 4 years have passed, and and then there's like the blonde guy, and the blonde guy pisses me off a lot.
Yes. I don't like him at all.
Yeah, like I
don't feel bad for him at all. The father's explanation of what made him stupid doesn't make me feel bad for him at all.
It's also a bad explanation, but we'll get to that when we get to that. This thing is like he's just straight up sleeping on the food. And his face is on the change. And so when like the lady buys something and like the dad shows up and it's like, okay, well, here's your change. It's just he's sleeping on it and she looks at it like, ew, it's gross. Get it out of my hand. But she takes it anyways. And there's like all this shit money. And yeah, money. And then it's like Matt number 4. It's like, did you eat one of the legs? Because you know the legs are the most delicious thing of the squid, and you know better than to eat the legs. And then he just has the leg in his pocket.
Especially, yeah, because he like took one bite of it, but then he got interrupted, and so he put it in his pocket, I guess.
But you know when they finally get to Matt number 4, you know the daughter shows up, and it's like, look, Auntie is the archer and all that kind of business. And I like the way they introduced her like that. That way, when they have extra scenes with her, there was no need to explain why she does this stuff. We just know because that's what she does. But then they go to the Matt number 4, and it looks like a whole bunch of Korean frat boys.
Yeah,
like they just look like young college dudes. It's like, yeah, we need some beer over here, man. Yeah, like that's what they reminded me of, only Korean.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, let's stand down by the river because there's an Amazonian river dolphin. And it's just like,
yeah, I think it's Amazon. It's like, what are you talking about? It's not a dolphin. It's not.
Yeah, because they were just like saying shit. I'm like, come on, guys. It's like you didn't even see it. And then like they throw the beer can and it just takes the beer can.
Well, to start with, it was before the dolphin. They were like, we think it's like construction equipment or something, which it's not. What's with the guy that kills himself, though? Like, why was that of any importance? Because that happens before the transition also, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I think it's after the transition, but before the blonde guy scene.
Because we don't really see him get eaten or anything.
No, it's like he's just there, and then like the guys are telling him not to do it, don't jump off. And then when they get there, and he's like, I see something in the river, and it's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's just like, you guys, you just don't ever learn. And then he just jumps in. You know,
yeah.
So the creature thing starts attacking, and it's like, I like the way they handled it. Like, it's not a good CGI. Like, it looks better than most, but
yeah, it's too shiny though.
Well, the CGI, it stands out, but at least when it interacted with the environment, like the actual real stuff on camera, they at least did stuff practically on camera for the CG to work with.
Yeah, they did a good job of having it have real effects, like when the car gets smashed or when it, like something the water splashes when it dives in or something. That stuff looked better than it did.
But that's the thing is, like, I think because of that, it made up for the fact that you could tell it was CG.
Yeah, it made it better. At least.
You know, like when it would dig its feet into the ground, or you know, all this other stuff, like when it would like move through the grass. And I think it's because of that I was more accepting of it not being as great.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that, and then there's like the white guy that helps, and she's like, and there's like the little Korean lady. It's like, Donald, don't do it, come back. He's like, but there's people in there, I gotta help. And yet again, it's another white guy hired just because he was probably in the area and they needed a white guy to be American.
But he's speaking English.
Well,
like,
so is
right
the coroner.
In the middle. I know, but I mean, the coroner was in an entirely English-speaking scene because the assistant guy did too. But then he's in the middle of an otherwise like screaming Korean scene and he's speaking English.
But it's the thing that gets me is even, okay, if they're trying to portray an American.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be what? He's supposed to be military or something?
Yeah, I think it's a Navy base that's in the area. So we're just going to go ahead and say that he was an American Navy in the area with his Korean girlfriend or wife, whatever. We don't care. His name is Donald, and he's supposed to be our martyred white guy. And even though he speaks good English, his lines are terrible. Because when he runs up to be like, hey, I speak English and I help. Hey, let me help. He ends up being more in the way than he does helping before they finally break the door open. And it's just like, you don't have to explain that you want to help. Just do it. Like, just grab the door and start pulling so it opens.
Yeah, that was weird. He's just like, we gotta open the door. It's like, well, yeah, we're trying to.
Like, we'll just
Let's
open
just
the fucking
do
door.
it.
Okay, so like all this business is going on and people are screaming and they're losing their minds and Donald gets eaten and the blonde-haired Blondie, I'm just going to call him Blondie.
They do.
Yeah, well, I think like someone calls him Blondie. I think his name's like Park.
Yeah, Park, yeah.
But Blondie, it's like, and so like Blondie's trying to help out, and at least he's making an effort compared to everybody else. So I was a little more approving of him at this point, but he was still kind of a slacker to me. And then like the daughter steps outside, and it's like she doesn't hear any of the commotion, and like the way they have it in the film, like you don't hear it until it slowly kind of seeps in, and then as she walks forward, that's when the audio gets louder, and that's when she notices stuff, and that's when Dad grabs her. But I'm just thinking,
I like having it edited that way. It's a cool effect to have it like as she comes further out into it, the sound fades in, but it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Hear it. I have it actually written down. It's like she didn't hear the screaming, really?
Yeah. And then it's just like all this shit, and then she just. And then, like, whenever they fall and he just doesn't look behind him, it wouldn't have been hard for him to just look behind him. It wouldn't have been hard if he would have just got his shit together and then it's like, okay, well, I fell down. I'm not holding her hand anymore. Look behind to grab her hand instead of just picking up anything. He could have picked up a fucking rock for all he knew.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be stupid.
Well, you can be stupid, but still look at stuff. Stupid people look at stuff all the time.
But because he's stupid, he didn't think to look.
Yeah, well. So, like, they're all running and he ends up grabbing the arm of, like, another girl in extra business. And it just so happens to be another schoolgirl. And I kind of liked that. It's just like a schoolgirl that looks the very opposite, you know, like longer braided hair compared to short hair and glasses compared to no glasses. Yeah, and it's just like, oh, I fucked up. And there's already somebody like grabbing her by the shoulders, trying to pull her along. Like, okay. And then like that's done. And okay, so they're inside the auditorium or whatever that area was. And there's all those pictures of faces. And the only thing I could think of was, I wonder how many of those people were actually eaten compared to how many of them were actually crushed underfoot.
Yeah, because it was just a full-on panic.
Yeah.
So...
Because there was only so many people it looked like it could have captured and eaten because it was only so big. But like that wall had at least like 20 or more people on it. So like I know not all 20 people were eaten.
Yeah, when it ran through the thing that they opened the doors on, it didn't eat everybody in there, but it sort of smashed through. So
yeah,
there's probably some people there. They really get themselves into a state, though, looking at the picture of her on the casualties wall.
The wall of casualties. They
just fall apart and just like they're just screaming and wallowing on the floor. And what there's a thing that happens a number of times that recurs with Blondie, if we're calling him that, that like his shoes come off all the time. Like, it happens all the time. And it doesn't happen to anybody else. It just happens to him. Like, when he's running, like, he trips and his shoes fall off. And then he's panicking on the floor and his shoes fall off. Like, what's up with that?
Maybe he's too stupid to tie his shoes.
Maybe.
He does fall quite often.
He does.
Yeah, but, like, they're all, like... And I think like, the reason why they are all... Because they were on the ground and they were flailing. Because, like, there was Dad, Blondie, sister, and then drunk uncle. I like that drunk uncle because the drunk uncle is my favorite character in this movie. But he's already been drinking. Like we see him introduced drinking as he walks through the area.
Yeah, like he comes in slow motion. He takes a swig out of the bottle and.
That's a long ass swig. All right. Like, yeah, like he was hitting that bottle hard and you could tell he was all kind of hammered and it's just, he didn't want to be touched. You could just see it. Like, he didn't want to be touched, and he's sad, and, you know, he loves his niece, and all this stuff's happening, and then this guy that he doesn't like is trying to hold him, and so, like, he's flailing, and then Blondie is like, no, I love you, man, and then sister is all upset, and Dad's upset, and they just kind of fall, and when they fall, it makes it even worse, because, you know, it's like the loss of control.
Yeah.
So... And then like they look kind of like the police, but like the police have to get involved to like shut them up and get them back up on their feet.
Yeah, I think they are the police.
Yep.
The only time in the movie, because we're going to run into one of our standard things again in a minute, that the police do police type things properly.
Yeah.
Like they attempt to control the situation, which is the last time we'll see that in this movie.
Yeah, because at this point, the police really aren't as much involved as the military is. But then, like, there's like they're all in the area. I don't even know what to call that. Like, I don't know if that's an arena or a what, but they're locked away. And a guy in a hazmat suit comes up, and they're like, "Oh, like, hey, what's going on? You need to start telling us stuff." And instead of just coming up with a bullshit explanation to help calm people down, he's like, "Well, the news will tell you."
Yeah, and he runs over to the TV and has like a panic moment, and like the news isn't on, except like 20 seconds later it will be. But
yeah, and it's just like, really, it wouldn't have been hard for you just to kind of make a little something up. It's like, hey, the creature out there we think could be contaminated with something, and we have y'all in here because we don't want the contamination spreading. And so we just want to make sure everybody is organized so we can go through everyone and make sure that they're clean and checked out so we can send y'all home.
Mm-hmm. And that was actually something that I really liked about what I thought the way they were going with it. It doesn't turn out really to be the case, and the disease part doesn't really go anywhere. But that it seems at first like it's just a monster creature attack movie. But then they shift the threat to, well, it's not really the creature itself. It's this disease that it might be carrying, and that's the thing that's dangerous, that we have to be afraid of. And I liked that, but then it doesn't really go anywhere.
And then, like there was what's his face, Donald, and he was, he's talking about it, and he's like, he's on the news, and he's like, I'll need the approval of the United States to disclose any information. Like, I don't really think they would have said it quite like that. But yeah, like that's what would have happened. It's like, I can't say anything because, the United States.
I don't even think they would have let the news in there because he's in the hospital on the military base. I don't think they would have even let the news in there to even have to say that.
Yep.
If they're not going to give them any information, they would just not let them in.
Now, the thing that got me is I'm still at this point, I'm not quite sure if it's still, they believe it's a virus, because they made the comment, it's like, oh, there's a virus. And later on, they make note that there is no virus to be found, but the whole thing kind of makes me question. It's like, hey, was the government using the virus as a cover up to try to contain this creature, or did they really think it was a virus and, stuff?
I don't know. It's never really clear because they're putting a lot of effort into the supposed virus, and the white guy apparently dies, I guess, unless that was fake. But he doesn't ever show back up, so they never prove that it's fake. But there is no disease because nobody else ever dies of it. Park never, or Blondie never gets it. And we never see anybody suffer from any symptoms at all. And then there's the creepy guy that makes the speech later about how it's all fake and he shouldn't be talking about it, but he's going to talk about it. And then the disease part never really comes to anything, but it's not really helping them cover anything anyway. Because they sort of quarantine off the area, but they could have done that just saying that the area is dangerous because of the creature, and still just forced people to stay out with the military like they are. So I don't really know what the point or at what point they knew that it was fake or not.
Yeah, there's that, and then like Blondie shows up, and he's just a big screw up. Like everything that Blondie does is just like, seriously. Get this, just like someone strap this guy down to like a bed because he's in the way.
Yeah,
and like because like they're all like in their medical robes or whatever, their little tissue paper shit with no back, so their asses hang out. And then he gets the phone call from his daughter, and like earlier she was making a comment about her phone was terrible and like it never gets any signal, but she's in a sewer and her phone made a phone call.
Yeah. I mean, it was barely. It wasn't really clear, but
but seriously,
and the battery died, but
it's like her phone could make a phone call from within a sewer. So obviously, if it can make a phone call from within a sewer, it has better reception than what she gave it credit for.
Yeah. Well, I think she was just being
a kid and wanting a new, better phone. Yeah.
So then we get, as we seem to always, really unhelpful police.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, like the call, like really, like, well, but she's listed as deceased. It's like, well, yeah, but so that's just the list. That doesn't prove anything. You didn't recover the bodies of any of these people, so maybe she just was missing. Can't you believe that and act like the police and do a little checking and see?
Well, no,
police are unhelpful.
I don't really think it's much as the police. Like, yeah, the police still suck in this scene, but it's Blondie and Blondie's terrible way of explaining. And like, if he would have just had the brother do it, because even though the brother's probably sobered up by then, had a better way, you know, because that thing is the protesting Molotov cocktail making brother had a bit more wits about him than Blondie, obviously, and just like have the brother do it. It's like, hey, we received a phone call from someone we think was deceased, and we would like the police to investigate because, hey, it could be a missing person, and the government might want to get involved in this because it's like, hey, who knows? What's up? Come on, chop, let's get this.
I mean, you can see that a call was received on the phone. He's like, well, we don't just trace calls for anybody, but you don't even have to trace it that unless you want to find out where it came from. But you can see that it did happen, that he's not dreaming, that he didn't make it up, that he's not hallucinating or whatever, that he's not just crazy. Like, the phone received a call from the number that is his daughter's phone. So he did do like a bad job of explaining it and being believable, I guess. And that whole business with the putting the phone in his mouth and dropping it and stuff was probably not helpful in making him seem credible. But still, the police didn't even try.
No. Now, like, there was a scene where it was a couple of guys who were outside, and like the creature thing was above them, and it just like swooped down and like just picked them up. I loved that. Like the thing where it swings by its tail through certain areas. I loved it. It was just great. It's just like alley-oop and just snatched the guy up. Like I'm cool with that. All right. Well, like there's those crooks, and I don't even know what you're supposed to call them, but like they are expensive. It's like,
yeah, they are like $11,000 or something. Like, you didn't do anything. You drove a van.
Well, it's the fact that they had like this equipment and the guns and the van, and they were like breaking them out of the hospital. But still, like I don't know how much actual like Korean money, because this is a Korean film, so I don't know.
But everything is subtitled in dollars, so I don't know if it's because they don't use dollars in Korea. So I guess I don't know if they're doing the conversion as part of the translation.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not exactly sure how much real currency in Korea this would have been or what. But it just seems so steep for what little was actually done and provided.
Yeah, well, because they didn't bust them out of the hospital. They snuck out of the hospital and they were just waiting in the van. They didn't help them get out. They just drove them away once they got to the parking garage. And
then it's just like, well, if you don't have all the money, we'll just take your credit cards. And then it's like the code for all the cards was 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, seriously? It's terrible.
And he's not even the stupid one.
I just don't know of any like debit cards that allow you to have consecutive numbers like that.
Well, I mean, really, for security purposes, nobody but you is supposed to know, and it's supposed to be in the system where not in plain text. So, they shouldn't even know. Like, they should let you put that because they shouldn't be checking at all what you're putting in, even if it's even if you're being stupid and putting a non-secure PIN.
Yeah, I guess.
Because anytime you're doing that, if you're putting in a password, if you're making a new password on a website or something, and it tells you, like, it must contain this and it must contain that, like, that's less secure because if you're trying to crack it, that's giving you hints as to what must be there and what can't be possible. It's actually reducing the number of possible things that you would have to check if you were trying to attack it. So it seems like they're being helpful, but they're not. It's like must have a capital letter, must contain at least one number, must be of this length of characters. You know, that's trying to help save you from yourself, but it's actually helping people trying to hurt you. So anytime you should see that, you should be worried. Be afraid, be very afraid.
Yeah, well, it's like anytime they do that, and it's like you have to have like 6 to 15 characters, and I'm like, what if I want 25 characters?
Yeah, why
like,
not?
You got all this other shit that I have to do. I want 25 characters.
Yeah, they should let you have effectively any length you want of some reasonable amount. But yeah, it's like if it's 7 to 15, then you know you don't have to worry about checking anything under 7 or anything above 15. And you know you've got to have a capital letter and a number in there somewhere. And most people are going to put the capital letter at the beginning of a phrase or word. And they're probably going to put the numbers at the end because that makes it easier to remember. And so it's immediately giving you many fewer things to check in most cases.
Yep.
But yeah, that was something that was strange, that he has bad passwords, because up till that point, he was supposed to be at least significantly less stupid. I don't know if he was supposed to be smart or not, but he was less stupid than the son was supposed to be. And then suddenly he has this whole thing where like he gets ripped off by the crooks and he has bad passwords, and then they blame him for like, you paid this much for this map that's like worth nothing. And it's like that. It was strange that they were suddenly trying to make him look bad when they hadn't before that.
Well, I think it was more or less like I didn't like the password bit. The rest of it I was fine with because it was like an honest man having to deal with crooked people and getting ripped off. You know, because honest men are going to do what honest men do. Crooked men are going to do what crooked men do. And it's just they took advantage of him because they were crooked and he was honest. But when they go through security, like security sucked so bad. And then it was just like another white guy. And it's just like, hey, I know who y'all are. And then they just hand him like the bucket full of change. And it's just like, that's all we got. Bye. And they just pass through. It's like, I was trying to understand what that was even for.
I want to know how he had managed to carry his bucket full of change through being quarantined in the hospital and having none of his actual clothes and escaping, not appearing to carry anything and being in a van that wasn't theirs. But he still has managed to hold on to the cell phone money.
Which are dimes.
Believe it. There's a few quarters in there. So then they search around in the sewer for a while and not find anything because he doesn't remember to tell them that it's big and deep. Actually, he never remembers to tell them that it's deep. He finally says that it's big, but not for a long time. And then there's that dude and the kid.
Well, it was the older brother and the little brother, because you know he was still pretty young himself, but you know the thing for them is they use this phrase like "co-re" or whatever, which is just a term that they were talking about. It's like kids use it to talk about like it's a game about stealing stuff.
Yeah,
which all they really do is they use it for you steal food because you're hungry. Like that's pretty much what they use this term for, is you steal food because you're hungry, not because you're a criminal.
Yeah. They say borrowing, but
yeah, borrow, but whatever. It's still the same thing. You don't return food.
When you borrow something, you don't tell nobody. They call that stealing, you know.
Well, if you borrow something and you get caught before you can return it, that's called stealing.
Yeah.
But it's like with food, you don't have the intention of returning food after you use it.
Well, hopefully not.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not food when it comes back out. So, no, but even before that, I liked when Blondie was running behind the truck because it was spraying the disinfectant. Because, you know, like everybody was so believing that like the virus was a thing. He was running behind the truck to become disinfected.
Yeah,
I liked that. You know, it's like it's not exactly smart, but for an idiot, it was a good idea.
I guess, but they let him.
So?
Like, yes, he's stupid, but you can tell him when he's being and stop him from doing stupid things.
Well, if they believed that he was actually infected with a virus, then it's like, hey, well, maybe this is helping. That's why I was for it, is because the idiot believed he was sick. Everybody else believed the idiot was sick. The idiot was trying to do something about being sick. That's why I approved of it. Regardless if he was right or wrong, he was trying because he believed he was.
So they search around in the sewer for a while and they don't find anything. And so then they go back to their snack bar place so they can eat.
And I love those edits. Those edits, you had like the two kids who were still in the food. And they tried running back, but the thing was chasing them. And then that edit when they tried to open the door was the other people returning. I love that.
Yeah, that was cool. But then the daughter is there in the scene and no one acknowledges it as being strange. And I don't understand it at all.
No, she was there the whole time.
No. The missing daughter.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the young daughter. The young daughter when
like
they're
she
eating.
shows up in that scene when they're eating, and it's the daughter that's missing.
Yeah, okay.
And she just
scene.
like eats the food, like they hand her food and stuff, and it's like what? Like, are they all having like a joint hallucination? What is this?
Well, I think the little girl, because like after that, it cuts to the little girl being in the sewer. I think she was daydreaming it, but it was too convenient. Well, because everyone was there.
It's like actually happening though, because then we come back to it and they have just eaten, and then he tells the story about why he thinks he's so stupid. So if she's imagining it, it's also really happening, and it was very strange. Because I thought at first, like, oh, she's managed to escape. And so this, like, the story is going to be different now. And she just showed up. It's like she just was hiding in the house until they came back because she managed to escape somehow. But then they don't acknowledge her at all. And then, except to hand her food. And then we cut immediately to her being still trapped in the sewer. So I was just like, what is this? This is very strange. I don't understand this at all.
Yeah, it was a scene that was partially unnecessary and had no explanation.
Yeah. And so then he's so stupid, he gets the dad killed.
Oh, wait. I want to back up a little bit to whenever the dad is explaining why Blondie is stupid. And he talks about a protein deficiency because he was having to live off of the food that farmers were growing. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't really. No.
Because, like there are a lot of things that contain protein, not as much protein as meat, but even if you were living off of just the food from a farm or random farms that you were stealing from, you could still make it okay. It's just he was probably mentally retarded to start with. And his sleeping isn't caused by protein deficiencies as much as likely as it is an iron deficiency.
Yeah.
Because that's what they talk about. It's like, hey, if you're feeling tired, it's probably because you don't get enough iron in your diet. And all that junk food doesn't exactly have a lot of iron. So if he's only eating squid legs and the stuff that's in the food bar, then he's probably not getting enough iron.
Yeah, but all of them are eating that. And I don't know what's in squid. Maybe there's iron in squid. I don't know.
But when the dad's talking about it, the other guys, like they fall asleep, and then Blondie wakes up, and he's just, like this I did like, because he wakes up and he's like leaning forward and he's like, it's looking at us, and like the creature's outside like collecting water.
Yeah.
And then it's like point the gun and then fire it, and it like shocks the two people who are like asleep. Like I love that whole little bit. Like it was great.
Well, that was something I forgot about that. He's having this big emotional scene explaining how he thought he failed as a father and so forth and made him stupid because he didn't feed him. And they're sleeping through it.
Well,
no one is listening to him talk.
I think Blondie is adopted.
No, because he talks about how like the mother, like he was born and then the mother like ran off like immediately.
No, that was for the little girl. The little girl's mother ran off.
Oh.
The little girl's mother ran off. That's why she was never there.
They never say he's adopted, though.
No, but I think he's adopted. Because that's why the other two don't really treat him that well. It's because like
they
they're
just
the
didn't
real
treat him well because
kids.
they didn't like him. Because they thought he was stupid.
Well, he is stupid, but still.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, like even if your brother's stupid, like there's still gonna be like enough love there because it's like, oh, it's my brother. Like he is stupid, but I still love him. He's my brother because it's that kind of shit. But I have this feeling that he was adopted because, it's like you have this little boy who's out there and he's underfed and he's all messed up. And then like the dad who already has kids, like adopts him to take care of him because he feels bad. And I have a feeling that's what it is because of the end of this movie, like the ending. Okay. So, like the amphibious creature thing attacks and, all this stuff is going all over the place and people are freaking out because they were asleep and shit happens and they're just firing these shotguns and kabow and it's like,
but
okay,
don't worry. We have shotguns.
We need shotguns for this shit. Like there could be 15 people up there. We need motherfucking shotguns. Okay, yeah, I do believe that the creature was staring at them because when they fired at it, it charged at them like so perfectly timed, which was awkward because like I want to know how like the creature was like looking at them. Like, did it smell them? Did it hear them? Because the dad was talking, and I'm sure the dad could have been making enough loud noises for it to escape through that slit in the wall for the animal to hear or whatever. Obviously, because they do point the gun out of the slit. But this is one of them scenes where because of, it's been raining and the ground is wet and there's the tall grass, the amphibious creature like moves the environment around it, which is actually on camera. And like we had said earlier, that's something that I do like. But the whole, it got shot in the face because it was on top of that crate looking thing. And then they shot it in the face and it just like rolled over.
Yeah.
And then it like ran off and they started chasing after it.
Yeah. I mean, then they chase after it and use up almost all the ammunition.
It's like I don't know how other countries handle firearms. So I can't really say too much other than the fact that their use of shotguns sucked.
Yeah. But then Blondie thinks he still has one shot left, and so he gives it to the father because I guess maybe he seems to have been a better shot up till this point or something. And he apparently is so stupid that he can't count either, because then he realizes at about the same time that there weren't as many, and then the dad fires the shotgun what would have been right into the mouth of the beast, and it's empty.
Yeah.
And he gets eaten.
No, he doesn't get eaten.
Well, no, he gets like beat against the ground or something.
And they just leave him there. Like the thing like picks him up with the tail and like smashes him into the concrete and then just runs off. Like
it doesn't even collect him like it has been other people.
Yeah, like this is one of them scenes where it's whenever you have a monster needs to be more than a monster. It needs to be a character. And for a character, the character has to do stuff. And so far we have this creature who's been running around kind of collecting and eating people for a purpose that we have assumed because we've seen the little girl, and the little girl, it's like we've seen it spit these people back up into the hole, and the little girl just seemed to be alive. But it's been doing pretty much more or less animalistic things, nothing that would have a sense of intelligence or higher thought process until it went out of its way to kill him and leave him there.
Yeah.
Because
which is the only time it ever does anything like that.
Exactly. And I wish it would have taken him. And since it didn't, I wish they would have done more like this.
Yeah. Because either way, it would have at least been something with some consistency. But like this, it's just like, well, that is the only time that ever happens. That's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Like, why would it just leave it there so that they can watch him bleed and be sad?
It was sad. It was very sad. It kind of pissed me off because Blondie can't count. And
yeah, it was sad that the dad died, but it just made me hate Blondie more because he's just stupid and useless and gets everyone else killed.
And like, did nobody have any extra rounds? Like, did nobody put any extra rounds in their pockets or something? Or did they just have what was in the shotguns?
I guess maybe the crooks didn't sell them any extra. I don't know. They had way more than they should have had anyway for the size of those shotguns. So.
Okay, and shortly after this is whenever the movie introduces Agent Yellow.
Yeah, which is not a real thing, but because of the naming of it, I take it to be similar to the so-called rainbow agents from Korea, I guess. It was the Korean War or the Vietnam War. The
Vietnam War used Agent Orange.
That was the most popular one, but they also had a few others that were lesser used. They had Agent Green, they had Agent Pink, but there was never an Agent Yellow. White, I think they had Agent White also. Agent Orange was just the most widely used and has had the most lasting effect. But so I take it to be that it's something like that we're supposed to take. It's like, oh, it's poisonous, dangerous. But they're just like releasing it in the middle of the city. They're like, stay back. If you can hear this, you're too close. But still, it's just, I don't think it's going to stay that contained. It's kind of just like in the air.
But at this point, like an hour in the film has passed by, and I want to know exactly how much time has passed in the movie world.
It's very hard to tell. That was one of the things that I had questions about, because it feels like a lot of time passes, because they do a lot of tests on Blondie. They search around for a while. And then like it's been forever is because they separate. The dad gets killed, and so then the sister and the brother go off separately and leave Blondie on his own because he gets captured. And then when we see the brother again the next time, it feels like it's been weeks. Like, it feels like he's been sneaking around. He's been trying to put something together to figure out how to find the sister. And it feels like it's been forever. But then we keep going back to the daughter still in the sewer. And it can't have been that long, or she would have died of like starvation or something already. It seems like it's been much longer on the outside than it's been for her stuck in the hole.
And see, while I agree with that, I think maybe it's been a few days. We see her try to collect some water that's dripping down for her to drink. So we know she's not going to dehydrate. We know she's not going to do that. Now, for the food, on the other hand, because the little boy and his older brother were stealing food from the shack, I can always assume that that's what they were eating.
He still had some.
Yeah, like they like the little boy had some of the food on him.
We never see them eat any food.
We never do. And if they did, like, that would be like, it's another one of those little editorial things. Like, hey,
yeah, that would have been helpful. It's like, if this has been this long, to prove the
character has been able to survive this period of time. Like, yeah. And that's something that's like, all you had to do is just throw a couple of empty candy bar wrappers on the ground and then have like a scene where they walk by them. Like, we didn't even need to see them eat them. Just acknowledge the fact that it existed.
Yeah. But I mean, we could see them eat them. They're hiding in that hole for a long time talking about stuff. So they could, in the pipe off to the side, so we could see them eat a little bit. I mean, it would just be just something, because otherwise it just seems like they're trapped down here for a length of time with no supplies of any kind, but they're okay. But yeah, I don't really know how long it's been, but it seems like it's been some time. It's been quite a bit of time, it seems. Maybe it's only been maybe a week or something, but it seems like they had him doing the testing on him for quite a while.
Well, like, the next scene would be when the brother meets the one fatter guy and they do the call tracking.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, this is one of those scenes where I like the brothers, because the brother did a really good job being stealthy. And like, there was a task that needed to be done. He knew he needed to do it, and he went about it a very appropriate way. And so like, they're in the building, and then like Fatty is a traitor, but we're not sure if he's like a traitor or what, because
well, he just wants the reward money.
Yeah,
but then he has like 100 people helping him. And so it's like, well, are they all going to share the reward money or what? Like, I don't think you needed that many people to just...
Well, I don't really think those were other people who worked in the office. I think Fatty was the only one that worked in the office, and everybody else was with the hospital.
Maybe.
Because when they all kind of like walk out into the open. It's like, are you feeling okay? It's, like, I don't know. It's like the dialogue used compared to the way they actually looked caused a little confusion. But I just kind of thought that they were the police, the people who were doing the portable hospital stuff.
Yeah.
But like he does that, and he I like the paper, like the very, very calm add paper clip, and then plug into surge protector, and like the power goes out. Like,
yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, like little stuff like that happens, and like, hey, you got to be careful. He's like a rat. It's really hard to catch him. And it's like, oh, he did all this protesting and stuff, and it's like, other than the fact that I think some protesting is completely pointless, having a set of skills required for doing what is needed is always approvable.
Yeah. Do we know what he protested over?
I have no clue.
I don't think they ever said.
Okay, so like he's running from the cops because he gets down to the ground floor and he's outside, and then we can hear the cops and we can kind of see the lights, but it takes a little while for the cops to even show up to that very area. So he climbs off the edge towards the like the bridge or whatever.
Yeah, and he just stays under that piece of the highway there, and they never look there, apparently.
Well, it's like he falls and then he rolls into the shadow because it's like he hurts his leg. And it's like, why did he let himself fall? Like, did he fall on accident? Did he fall on purpose or what? Like, I want to know what happened. Because like he was good there. No one noticed him until he hit the ground. And then when he hit the ground, you could tell he was hurt because, he was limping.
Yeah, but he doesn't get caught. He just stays. Of course, I guess he doesn't stay exactly where he was, does he? Because the homeless guy
comes and gets him. Yep.
Yeah.
But like the sister, like I like how the sister was. She was just staying in one of the steel beams in the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Like it kind of made me want to do that. Like just grab a blanket and like go out to like a bridge over the water and see if that's a thing.
People have done that before. I don't think it's legal, but people have done it. Yeah, because I guess she's been it seems like this for however long this period of time is, while the brother's been trying to put something together to trace the phone, she's just been continuing to search various sewers.
Yep. Well, and she's been really stealthy about it. Like even with people around, like she just kind of trail through the water.
Yeah, right like, up really against the side with the police right there, or the military, or whoever they are.
Yeah, so like I think she did a great job of doing or at least the film made her look good at what she was doing.
She takes too long to shoot her arrows, but because she does it again too. She takes too long and gets knocked down by the thing. She lost the medal because of it, and she does it for real.
Okay, and so like now the white coroner guy shows back up, and he's there with Blondie, and he has the assistant who's translating, and they go through their little spill of dialogue, and he's like, "My daughter's still alive." It's like, why didn't you contact the police or the military? And it's just the fact that they had the white guy say that at all. Just like, well, do you think he didn't try? Just like, but what about the media or so-and-so? It's just like I once again, they had the white guy for this again, I guess to make Korea not look as bad. Just like, hey, we're going to make our people not look as silly because we're going to use Americans for it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It's just they use the white guy again for this.
Well, doesn't that make them look less good though? Because they're having to use white people to do it and not Korean people?
No, because he turns around and he doesn't believe him anyways. He's just like, hey, okay, yeah, this guy, he's really bad. All this kind of
so
mental
like
issue.
The white guy turns out to be just as bad.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like once again, that's what they were using it for. It was like a trick. And it's like bad medical science because it's just like, it's in the brain. Because we couldn't find it in the body. It's in the brain.
No, you can't find it in the body because it's fake.
Yeah.
But why doesn't he know that it's fake? Or is he just crazy and wants to drill into his brain anyway? Because he's the coroner at the military base where the guy died at the hospital who was also military. That is the one that supposedly had the disease, but seems to have not or not. I don't know. That whole thing is weird. That guy is just like really, really strange and creepy. And I don't know if some of it's just his bad acting that he comes off as strange as he does, or if he's supposed to be really strange or what. But he's really strange.
Well, I think a little bit of the whole weird stuff is weird also falls into the category of maybe editing, maybe.
Yeah,
because
but it is really strange. And they do drill into his brain.
They do.
But nothing comes of it, and then he escapes. Why did they have him in the portable hospital thing, though? If the guy from the military base was doing the work, why didn't they take him to the military base?
I guess maybe because they really thought there was an infection, and they didn't want the infection at the military base.
I guess, but the military guy had already been there, and he was the one that was supposed to be infected.
Well, I'm sure after they had quarantined that off and cleaned it up, they didn't want anything else. Who knows? And the military does what the military does, so it's not always easy to explain it unless if you're constantly there for each step. Okay, so this amphibious creature thing, it cuts back to like the kids, and they're inside the little pit, and this frog monster, whatever it is, salamander, I don't know, it comes up to the pit and it just vomits out all of these bones. That scene was awesome. Like, I loved watching that. Just the problem that I had is that like the little girl wanted to watch it too, and the only thing I could think of is like, hey, the more that you can do to keep it from thinking you're down there, the better. So don't be near the edge, be as far back in that little hole as possible so it's less likely to see or hear you, because you're trying to stay alive.
It does come down in the hole, though, so I guess it just never looked over there and doesn't remember that it brought this many things to eat.
Yep.
And doesn't have that many anymore.
And then I like the fact that with the bones, a beer can pops out, because it's the beer can that Blondie threw into the river, like it ate the beer can.
Yeah.
And so it vomits
and it's
the beer
just
can.
after she said, they're like, what do you want to eat when you get back? And she's like, beer. And it's like, but you didn't like the beer earlier.
It's like, I want a cold beer. Well, it's one of them missing her dad kind of things where it's like, dad, come save me. And that was like the last thing that she had with him was that cold beer.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those little things where it's, you don't really miss it until it's gone. And so it's like, you know, the last thing she had was her dad and the beer, and now she's waiting on her dad to come save her. And so she could, like, even though she didn't like the beer, she liked that moment that she spent with her dad. So I'm okay with it. I just like the constant use of the same beer can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they finish drilling into Blondie's brain. And then there's the nurse there, and she's drawing blood. And then he just kind of just staring off into space, and then he just goes for it and just charges her. And then he has the syringe with his blood in it, and he's like holding on to her, and they're walking through, and he like squirts some blood on some people, because of course everyone thinks, you know, there's the virus and the infection. And they get outside, and that's when you find out that's when it's like the mobile hospital park thing. It's kind of like Trailer Park Boys, only with less white trash people and more Korean medical scientists.
How's that for your hospital?
Yeah. And then the American government's like outside of it, because you see them and they're like grilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just grilling. It's like America. Always time for a burger. And then it's like they get in the van and they just let him escape, which was like, wow, like they really suck at their job just to let him escape.
It's like, you're the military. Stop him.
Yep. Like at this point, most of the time they would have just shot him to kill him, because it's like, okay, well, at least now we have his body we could autopsy.
Yeah, and they already did the brain surgery, and so he's not valuable alive anymore.
Yep.
You just need to keep him from escaping.
Now, I didn't really care one way or the other. It's the fact that he got away. It was kind of cool just watching him do the little bit and people panicky and, you know, spray some blood on them and they freak out. Like, I just liked watching that.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back and like the brother wakes up and that's where the homeless guy had saved him. And then he's like, hey, you got all these empty bottles. Let me have them. And then he just takes one of the bottles and smashes it against the brother's head. It's like, hey, it's like, you ain't just taking my bottles. But it's like, that was great. It's like he just smashed that bottle over his head. And like, they cuts right after it. And they're both in the back of a taxi making Molotov cocktails. Like the homeless guy is helping him make Molotov cocktails after smashing that bottle against his head. It's like how do you transition between that?
Poorly.
Like it was really funny though. Like I couldn't help but to not like it. It's like, well, here, take my money. It's like you can't just buy anything you want, but I'm kind of hungry, so I guess I'll accept it.
So I guess there had been police or something had been eaten, and so there was a nightstick in the bones. And she, like, I guess takes all of what was left of the clothes or something and ties them together to try to make a rope, but it's not long enough. But the creature, like, was it not really asleep then? Because she tries to jump, like, it's asleep, and she tries to jump up on top of it to reach the rope that she made to try to get out. And it just grabs her by, like, with its tail. And then just, like, sort of leaves her be for at least a second anyway, until she moves.
Well, I don't really know, because whenever they showed it the first time, before she tried making the jump, I guess it doesn't have eyelids. I don't know, because you could see its eye.
Well, fish kind of don't. I mean, they sort of do, but not like we do. So if it is kind of a fish, then maybe not.
And so she makes a run for it, and yeah, it does grab her with its tail, and it sits her down, but it sits her down gently.
It does.
And then it's like the little boy, like he should have stayed in that fucking tunnel. Like he should have just stayed in the fucking tunnel. Now, it's a good thing he didn't stay in the tunnel, because otherwise he wouldn't have been saved. Well, no, I take that back, because Blondie did find the pit. But the little boy should have stayed in there so he wouldn't have gotten eaten, because it ate the girl and then ran off. But like the boy pissed himself in fear, and I probably would have too, because it's like, hey, shit, it knows we're here.
So they're going to use the Agent Yellow to kill the beast.
Yep.
And people don't approve.
Nope.
So they're going to protest. And the police are still not doing a good job of keeping people from getting close enough for it to be dangerous.
Well, they had made a comment about, like, or I guess it was like on the radio or something, about the police weren't able to handle the huge number of people that were protesting, and so they just gave up.
I guess.
Because I remember hearing about that. It's like, wow, that hadn't been one hell of a protest.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty sizable.
Yeah. Well, they are spraying Agent Yellow. So yeah. It's kind of important.
Yeah. So the beast shows up at the protest, and the brother and the sister and
the homeless guy.
Yeah, and the homeless guy.
And Blondie.
Start to fight it. And the brother, he can make Molotov cocktails, but he cannot aim them.
He can't throw worth a shit. Well, okay, so like Blondie, he finds one of them signs, and he just picks the sign up and smashes the concrete end of the sign. Like the concrete ate shit. I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot harder than what it looks. But he takes that sign and he just smashes the concrete on it. So it's like, okay, well, we know it's movie concrete, but that's some weak ass concrete if you can just smash it. And then he like takes the other end and then knocks the sign off of it. And then he like starts hitting the creature. And then like that's when like the brother starts throwing the Molotovs, and he sucks at throwing. And I think the only reason why he sucks for throwing them is so they don't have to have as much CG fire on the monster. Yeah. So it's like, we need practical fire because it's cheaper, so we're just gonna have him miss.
Yeah.
And then like they finally do like catch it on fire, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it doesn't kill it though.
Nope. I did like how the homeless guy had managed to sneak his way up to the top and poured the gasoline on it, and then finally the sister actually made a shot that didn't take forever, and then he hit it in the eye.
Yeah, with an arrow on fire.
With an arrow on fire, because the last Molotov, brother ended up dropping behind him. Yeah,
like he goes to throw it and it just slips out behind, slips out of his hand, like before he starts to throw it, like, and drops behind him. It's like, really?
He's not even throwing them right, which is sad. Because there is a way you could throw Molotovs and they'd be like really, really effective. Okay, and so like the creature's all pissed off and on fire and it tries to run off. And this was like the moment of the movie I was waiting for. And Blondie just shows back up around like the stone pillar and thrusts that pipe into its mouth and like kills it.
Yeah. Finally, it dies.
I was so excited because it's like it went through poison twice and then it was on fire and then it took a pipe to the face.
And shotguns.
And shotguns. Shotguns, they did nothing. But like whenever the creature had vomited up like the little girl and the little boy, because it was like laying there from the shock of the poison. And like you could see the little girl's arm holding onto the tooth.
Yeah. So she had like kept from sucking all the way down inside, I guess.
And so they pull her out, but she ends up being dead, but the little boy is still alive.
They both lay there for a long time, though, with both of them seeming dead.
Yeah.
Or like they're neither of them moved for quite a while. And so then is that why you think the adoption thing? Because then he keeps the boy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that really proves anything or not.
I'm not saying it does. I'm just kind of saying it's like, well, how can Blondie be stupid because of not being able to eat, but the other two are fine because the dad could feed them when they don't seem to be that much older?
Not much. I mean, in his big speech, he talks about how he was... What was he? Was he off, like, gambling? Or what was it? There was something. He was off just doing something, not taking care of his kids. But I don't know if... I think he's supposed to be the oldest one, though.
Maybe.
Yeah, so he keeps the boy, and it's winter, so time has passed, I suppose.
He keeps the shotgun with him, which is a little odd for someone running a shack in Korea in the middle of like a normal populated area.
Yeah.
But
I don't actually can you own guns in Korea? I don't even know.
I don't know. I'm not from Korea.
But
no. I don't care if it's Asian.
Yeah.
So, how do we feel about stars?
I think I'm going to have to say 3 stars. Because I don't really like any of the characters. And, I mean, some of the monster stuff is well done. But then they do, the business with the disease, and that doesn't really go anywhere. And there's all the business with the formaldehyde that's, forced and heavy-handed and is kind of dumb. And bad police are bad at their jobs, and stupid is really, really stupid, and I don't know what's up with that weird scene with the daughter is there eating even when she's still not, and yeah, I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't really super great. So 3 stars. I'm sure you probably liked it better.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and say that I'm going to give it a 3-star for being a standard movie. All for the same issues. Kind of like how Snowpiercer had the same kind of explaining too much to cause issues. But for a monster movie, I have to give this a 4. I love the idea of the monster. I think that they explained a little bit too much on how it was made or the innuendo behind it. The CG was okay, even though for the year it could have looked better, but I'm sure this was a smaller budget film and they put the budget towards more important stuff for the storytelling, which I'm okay with. But the way the creature moved, the environment, everything about it, I'm not sure how much of it was actually used as practical. That's something that would be for another time, but for a monster movie, I have to give it a 4. For a standard movie, I'm going to give it a 3.
All right, then. Well, that's all we have to say about The Host. Join us next time when we'll be watching Tremors. We'll see you then.
Later.
If you'd like to contact us, download previous episodes, or subscribe to the show so that you never miss a new episode, all of that can be found at our website, wewatchmoviespodcast.com. We post a new episode every Thursday. Thanks for listening.